Sorry about that. Okay, so my speech is on illegal immigration. And I wanted to talk about how students at Winthrop probably grown up in the United States, other than like transfer students like from different countries and stuff. And most students here are probably trying to get a job, like a degree, to get a job and a career that they have interest in. We grew up in a well-developed country. I mean, like look at China and Africa and maybe parts of South America like Mexico. They're all developing countries. They don't have the same opportunities that we as citizens in America do. So I wanted to ask, how do Americans know what the concept of freedom is, but at the same time define it differently for illegal immigrants? And what do you think of when you hear the words illegal immigrants? Do you think the stereotypical foreigner who doesn't speak any English, or a worker in one of the wealthiest homes but gets paid less than minimum wage? The definition of illegal immigration is the migration of people across national borders in a way that violates the migration laws of the destination country. I think that most people don't know that there are 3 types of different immigrants, like how, not necessarily race or nationality, but how you become an illegal immigrant, and how there's immigration amnesty, and how the government wants to sort of fix immigration problems in America, and how immigrants have a huge effect on the economy and population. So, with that being said, I want to first discuss the different types of illegal immigrants, how they become illegal. And one way is by illegally entering the United States. So one of the most common ways, or common entrances, is the Mexican-US border. Most people risk their lives and sacrifice everything they have to sneak over and look for better opportunities in America. And about 6.5 million immigrants are just from the US-Mexican border, so that plays a big part in our population. The second is border crossing card violations. So it's a form of identification that enables immigrants to come over to the US for a certain amount of time. But if they lie about who they are or don't have the right proper form of identification, like they don't have all the papers, then it's considered illegally entering the US. And overstaying your time. So tourists and students and other people just visiting the country get visas, which is a legal way to enter the United States. But if you overstay your time, the allotted amount of time, you automatically become illegal. And the ramifications of, if you get caught, you can either be deported, have jail time, or you have to pay a fine. So I don't know if they're willing to do it. The government is very picky about giving out visas since 9/11 happened. And if you kind of don't understand what I mean, I had a guy who I went to school with who was graduating last year, and his grandparents wanted to come watch him graduate. And they had to get, because they're from South America, they had to get visas to come, and the government denied them because they were scared that they were like terrorists or something, but all they wanted to do was watch their grandson graduate from high school, and they weren't even allowed to do that. 5 million migrants consist of tourists and students who come over to the US. Okay. Immigration amnesty and the government, I had no idea what amnesty was, so I had to look it up. And it forgives illegal aliens for being illegal, like they pardon them of all the illegal actions that they have done, like not having the proper form of identification or overstaying their time if they had a visa. And they give them green cards. So here, you can be legal, but we're going to pardon you for your illegal activities. The Immigration and Reform Control Act helps legalize aliens, which is kind of what like amnesty and that go hand in hand. And the first amnesty was in 1986, and with that act, they legalized 2.8 million immigrants living in the US. I had a quote from Obama from one of the websites that I got my information from, and he said, "We're not going to ship back 12 million people. We're not going to do it as a practical matter. we would have to take all our law enforcement that we have to use it and put people on buses and rip families apart, and that's not who we are, and that's not what America's about. And I thought that was really interesting that he really does care about illegal people in our country, and maybe just people like in general, because obviously he's the president, so he has to care. With that being said, he wants to bring people out of the shadows, and he wants to require undocumented immigrants to pay a fine, learn English, and get their citizenship. So that way they don't have to hide in fear from the government or worry about getting caught all the time. They also want to crack down on employers who hire illegal immigrants, like to work in factories or like hire them like on a farm or some sort of thing like that. And they also want to promote economic development in Mexico, so that way it decreases illegal immigrants coming to America. Am I going too fast? Okay. Okay. Okay, so like I said earlier, illegal immigrants have a huge impact on population and the economy. 71% of the Hispanic population voted for Obama, and this was all in 2000. This article was written in 2013. So in Florida, Cubans play a huge part in Democratic voting because most Cubans escape Cuba and come to Florida because we're super close to them. Okay, so for my little diagram, this isn't on here, but 11 million undocumented immigrants were recorded in 2013 for the population. That's how many aren't legal. And about 80% from Mexico and Latin America, and 12% are foreign-born. So that means their parents come over, have kids in America, and that makes about 40 million of the population, 40 million people. And the other 11% are people from Canada, Europe, Africa, and other countries like that. And I feel like the media portrays illegal immigrants as just Hispanics. And that's not true, because anybody can be an immigrant. That's how America was founded on. We were all immigrants. And I like to think of my aunt, who's from England, and she married my uncle back in the 90s, but she had to get a visa to come over. She got married, which was a green card marriage, if you marry an illegal immigrant and a citizen, and then she eventually got her citizenship. So she was an illegal immigrant, and she's not Hispanic. Most of there are 5 gateway states where many people who immigrant from Mexico or Cuba or Canada come to, and that's California, Florida, New York, Illinois, and Texas. And I used to watch this show that talked about missing people, and some missing people would go missing in big cities like Los Angeles or Miami or New York City. And I think most immigrants go there because they're big cities and you can't be found. It's really hard to find a missing person if there's 12 million people in a city. So maybe they do that to hide in the shadows, I guess. $40 billion is the annual cost of educating illegal immigrants and their offspring. So when they come over, and maybe they don't even get educated, it's just their kids go in the school system or get thrown into the system. It costs $40 billion to educate them. Okay. I know a lot of people have a strong opinion about illegal immigration, and I'm not saying that their opinion is wrong, but I think researching is really important, because I didn't know a lot about illegal immigration until I researched for this assignment, and I learned a lot of interesting facts. So I think if people are educated about it, they won't have ignorant opinions on it, if that makes sense. And I think change is possible if people educate themselves and are willing to make change. That's my speech. Sorry, I was really nervous. There's that one. I don't want to do it today. You don't have to if you don't want to.